So cloudy with some hill fog. There will also be increasing outbreaks of rain with the odd heavier burst possible at times. In the northeast of England, it will be drier, although still rather cloudy. Some bright or sunny spells are possible towards the north through the afternoon, with some outbreaks of rain possible in the south later. There will be a chillier feel for those of us in southern Scotland. It will also be a rather cloudy day, but the odd bright or sunny spell remains possible. Northern Ireland, a little milder, but also rather cloudy. The odd shower also possible, along with a few brighter spells in the east. It will be rather breezy too. Remaining dry and clear in the north. The rain elsewhere edging east with showers following in the west. And that is your weather this
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinions. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome to this special edition of Talking Pints, where we look back at some of the best interviews in 2021. Now, normally, we provide the drinks for the people that come along to be interviewed and have a conversation in the GB News pub. But on one occasion, Jacob Rees-Mogg decided to bring his own homemade cider.
We've got the cider that I make at home. So these are Rees-Mogg apples that my children throw into this fantastic musher that puts out the juice and obviously then all the remains of the apples, and then it sits in a barn for a year and comes out as cider. And we make about 30 gallons of it a year, which I have to give away because I only drink about a pint of it a week. So I don't get a huge amount.
What sort of strength is it, Jacob?
I have no idea. You taste, you tell, you're the expert.
Well, cheers, cheers. This is the Rees-Mogg cider. Let's give it a go. Oh, wow, that's real. That's real. Yeah.
I'm not going to drink it all whilst...
No, that's fine. You can afterwards. Jacob, one of the things that those that really know you understand is you first appeared on television aged about 11 with the Financial Times. And I think at the time your father was running something called the Fleet Street Letter. He was, yes. Yeah, he actually offered me a job there once, believe it or not. I don't think I've ever told you that. He did. He did.
But my father was a great admirer of yours.
I know he was. But you've always been interested in investment, in stock markets, and what to do with money. And something new has arrived. We knew about it back in the 70s, into the 80s. It damaged people's savings in a way I don't think anything else can. It's the I word, it's inflation. And we've got the Bank of England and the Fed in America saying, oh, don't worry your little heads. It'll just be a little short-term thing and it won't be a problem. And yet I've always taken the view that inflation is a disease of money. And once you catch that, nearly often caused by governments and by excessive spending and borrowing. And then once you get that disease, it's very difficult to get rid of. So just with your investment manager hat on, how do you see inflation?
Well, I think going to the basics of economics, if you increase the money supply beyond a reasonable level, it has an inflationary effect. And it's very difficult to work out the precise causality. So monetary policy in the 1980s didn't particularly work because it was hard to say a greater than money supply of a particular measure of a certain level is directly inflationary. But that the simple point that if you create an enormous amount of money, it has to go somewhere. Money must find a home is true. And there was a very important House of Lords report. Lord Forsyth, Michael Forsyth, was, I think, the chairman of the committee that put out, warning us that we mustn't get addicted to free money. And I think that's right. And you've begun to see, partly because of trade distortions created by the pandemic, so containers being in the wrong part of the world and therefore transport costs going up, the beginnings of inflation. You've seen a very rapid increase in wages, which is in part extremely good because you want people to be getting better off. You want a real increase in wages, but it mustn't be too fast because that leads to inflationary pressures. So I think you're right to be concerned. I'm pleased that the Bank of England has said that it will look at reducing quantitative easing before raising interest rates. I think that's, obviously the Bank of England's independent. It's not for me as a minister to be saying what they ought to be doing, but it seems nonetheless that that is the right way around, that it's withdrawing some of that excess liquidity that was needed to deal with a crisis and gradually normalising. So I think the Bank of England...
So you think they're handling it the right way?
Is handling it
well, let's hope you're right.
The difficulty with all of this, always, is the speed of response. And sometimes you find that central banks have to act very suddenly, which risks creating an economic shock.
So investors need to watch inflation?
Very carefully.
Yeah, no, I think this is a view that I've formed very, very much. It's all back to the Brexit referendum. And, you know, you and I are very much on the same side on that. And I think, you know, both emotionally involved in that. We believed in it with all our heart and soul. I was unhappy. We didn't fall out, but I was unhappy that she, in the end, voted for Mrs May's dreadful deal. But I'm not going to have a punch-up over that with you today.
Well, we got there in the end, and we've discussed
that
leader.
Before. I mean, that's the point. I mean, thank goodness we got rid of Mrs May, and I like to think I played a bit of a hand in that. And we've got Boris and we've got Brexit done. It's not perfect. You know, the fishermen are angry. Really angry. And if you drove from your constituency an hour and a half, 2 hours southwest to Brixham Market, or I recommend you don't at the moment, they really are jolly angry about it, the way it's worked out. But constitutionally, we finished up with Northern Ireland. It's been effectively annexed. What are we going to do, Jacob, to sort that out? Is the will there? I hear Lord Frost, who I think did a jolly good job as negotiator, and I hear him saying tough things. Are we going to sort out Northern Ireland? Because if we don't, I do fear the knock-on for the rest of the Union is quite significant.
Northern Ireland is a fundamental part of our country. Northern Ireland is as much part of our country.
But it was.
As Somerset. No, it was. It still is. And you cannot allow the European Union to extract Northern Ireland from the United Kingdom. And you're right to say that the EU has not implemented what it agreed with the goodwill that we had a reasonable expectation could apply. It has not applied the flexibilities. It has not even recognised animals in the UK as being from the safest countries of all. And as the problem with rabies has always been the continent to us rather than us.
And she threatened us with that. She threatened to put the hard border back, and we know all of that. But does there come a point when we have to say, look, you've been completely unreasonable about this?
The British government is completely committed to ensuring that Northern Ireland remains a fundamental part of our United Kingdom. Lord Frost is, as you said earlier, a tough negotiator. The British government is going to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected.
There is work to be done.
There is work to be done, and it needs to be done at a sensible pace, and we need to try. You and I both want a relationship with the EU which is one of goodwill. And we want to get to that. But we need to understand, and you probably understand it better than I do because of being an MEP and perhaps being more intimately involved, that they feel very hurt still with us and are very angry with us. And there is still, yes?
Oh, yeah.
And it is in our interests in the long term to have a friendly relationship with the EU. So we want to ensure that Northern Ireland is protected.
But at the moment, it's not being protected. No, I mean, this is work in progress. Jacob, I've got one last thing to discuss with you before we're out of time. When I said you were coming on earlier, a lot of people said, Jacob Rees-Mogg, where's he gone? I mean, we had Mogmentum, we had this. There was a movement that suggested that Jacob could quite possibly become the leader of the Conservative Party, and what Jacob thought and what Jacob said on every issue was covered by all the newspapers from left to right, and we got to find out your views and your strong Christian faith and how you won't be bullied on social issues, and we learned all of those things. And this potential leader, and you've disappeared. You're leader of the House. You make some witty remarks in the House, and that's all well and good, and the business of the House of Commons is very important. But Jacob, you've disappeared.
Well, I'm here.
Well, I'm very pleased you are, but we haven't seen you doing interviews. We haven't seen. I mean, have they bought you off with this position, leader of the House?
No, in government, as you know, you're bound by collective responsibility.
Yes.
And you have your area of responsibility, and other ministers have theirs. My area of responsibility is the business of the House of Commons, the government.
But your fans want to see you, Jacob.
I'm delighted to come on your programme, and hope you will invite me back again.
Well, there we are. We've got Jacob Rees-Mogg. He's turned up with his own cider, and I think if he drinks a few more of those, maybe we'll see a lot more of him. I want to thank Jacob Rees-Mogg for coming in for Talking Pints. She's a black US Conservative commentator. She attacks the Democrats vigorously, a passionate supporter and friend of Donald Trump. And in this Talking Pints interview, she talks about the Black Lives Matter movement and how she feels about it, and about something else called Blexit.
There's such a lack of understanding of what's actually going on in America in terms of the race conflict. And it is purely manufactured by the media. And it is encouraged by the Democrat Party, who wants people to vote based on emotionality and on no basis of fact. And in particular, seeing the protests that were going on in the UK about racism and Black Lives Matter, an organization that is not for Black Americans. It's an organization that raised billions and billions of dollars, of which zero...
But it says it is.
Yeah. Billions and billions of dollars from white people that feel guilty and believe that there's, racial oppression in America for Black Americans because the media tells them so. And of course, the media never lies. Nigel, as you know, the media never, ever lies. And what it does is it funds white people. The money never goes to Black America. So billions of dollars raised for Black Lives Matter. Not a single Black school built, not a single Black building built up, not a Black neighborhood that was built up. But many more Black people arrested and sent to prison in these riots. More Black people died in these Black Lives Matter riots. But at least the white people felt good when they gave the dollar to Black Lives Matter. So it's a political scam.
But there are a lot of poor black people in America.
There's a lot of poor white people in America. There's a lot of poor people, period. And there's definitely such a thing as economic privilege. There's no white privilege. America is a country that no matter where you come from, you can make something great of yourself if you're willing to work hard and stay out of trouble. And unfortunately, right now, there's this idea that if you are Black, you can't become successful in America. And part of that is a racist idea, by the way.
This is the victim.
This is the victim mentality, and it's cancerous, right? Because if you keep telling somebody that they're a victim and that they are, stuck inside of this idea of being a victim, then they become their own oppressor. When you believe that you are a victim, you become your own oppressor, right? Because you say, why should I try? I'm Black. And my story is very much, I came from nothing. My mother didn't even graduate high school. My family grew up very poor, and I made it in America because I had grandparents who never handed me an excuse. You just got to get up and you have to work.
And now an English husband.
Now an English husband, yes. So,
but he's living in America with you, obviously, and you've got a young child.
We do.
Which is great. So there's a family life, but there's a sort of media life. I mean, that's where you are now, isn't it? A burgeoning media career.
Yeah.
And is that mostly online? Do you appear much on the big TV shows in the States? How does that mix work?
Yeah, so I do, I have my own show with the Daily Wire, and I'm on Fox News once, twice a week. And people, primarily the young people, follow me just on Instagram, on Twitter, because they just like to hear an opinion they haven't heard before. People mean well when they get behind things like Black Lives Matter. They genuinely do mean well.
I think that's right. I think most of the people who turned up on the streets thought, we want to live in a fair society, but I mean, I felt they were being used as pawns by
the facts are there. If people would like to look at the facts, they can look at the facts and actually see that Black Americans know we're not just being gunned down for walking down the street. A police officer doesn't just see us and gun us down. In fact, a police officer is 18.5 times more likely to be shot by a Black man than the other way around. And in America, by rate, if you look at the numbers, white American men and Hispanic men are killed at a higher rate than Black men. People just don't know this.
Yeah, no, I know. I've seen those numbers, and that narrative just hasn't got through at all.
It hasn't gotten through.
Just hasn't got through in any way. But Brexit inspired you.
It did.
Because it inspired your own political movement. Blexit. Explain Blexit, please.
So I saw you at CPAC, and I was actually depressed before I saw you because the doors had closed. Nobody knew who I was, and I was going to miss Trump's speech, and so I had to go backstage, and I had a pass that put me backstage, and I was like, I'm going to miss Trump's speech, the first time I'm going to see him speak, and I walk into the room, and I see you, and I'm like, oh, it's Nigel Farage, he's Mr. Brexit, and then I went, oh, that's exactly it. There needs to be a Blexit. There needs to be a Black exit from the ideals of progressivism. There needs to be a Black exit from this victim narrative that has become so poisonous, and that it is based on a fundamental lie. And so I created the movement to bring conservative principles to the Black community, to be a spokesperson for them, because in America and beyond, if you are a Black person, you are not allowed to be conservative. You are caricatured, you are lied on by the media, you are attacked.
And yet, a larger number of Black people voted Republican, I think in the last 2 elections, than had for a long, long time. So this Donald Trump figure, who I've got to know pretty well over the years, and I like him. I've made no bones about that, and I've perhaps been his most consistent supporter on this side of the pond, against the media who paint him out to be a monster. But you're personal friends with Donald Trump, and tell me why.
Because when he was running, I didn't want him to win, and then I watched the speech that he gave while he was running. Didn't want him to. No. I was that same sleepy, Republicans are racist, and then I heard a speech he gave in Dimondale, Michigan in 2015, and the scales fell from my eyes. He sat up there and he listed every statistic. Black community, you've been voting for Democrats for 60 years. Why not take a chance on me? He said specifically, Black America, what do you have to lose? Look at all of the ways you've already lost, right? What's it gonna take for you to just give me a chance? And I went, wow, that's about as good an argument as any. We're not winning, so why not take a chance on something different, And I watched the way the media, who I had trusted at that time, spun what he said and lied and said that he was saying all Black people were poor, that all Black people were criminals, and it's not what he said at all.
You're the first in your family to go to university, so whatever challenges your childhood presented, it didn't stop you going to university. How did you find it?
Never felt like a student. I was always like a townie who was doing a degree, and a little bit apprehensive about it. None of my friends really had gone to university. They're all trained as plumbers and electricians and that kind of thing. And it was completely not what I expected, a lot more down to earth. And I studied politics, so you can decide whether that was useful or not.
You say you played hard and you worked hard. You did your schoolwork too. You get into Oxford.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know, but I just was like a fish out of water, like for most of it, to be honest. Although I did make some really good friends there.
Why were you a fish out of water?
State educated, northern girl doing science, and the work is really, really hard. It's completely different. What I realised was everybody else had had a lot of coaching, a lot of extra tuition, a lot of support. There was no teaching, really. It's just like, here's an exercise book, get on with it. Crushed my confidence immediately, which, having gone from being this sort of clever, like, oh, you're out of 2,000 kids in this sixth form college in Manchester, we want you to sort of apply for, I was the only one who got in out of that, to basically being made to feel like I was totally thick, is quite crushing.
Did your parents separate when you were young? Do you know your dad?
They separated when I was 10. My father left home for, strangely, a woman round the corner. I have to say it's probably it made things more difficult financially, but it also made me probably appreciate what I've actually had, what I then had in the future, so to speak. So.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
He's a veteran, well-known commentator and journalist. He's not exactly always a ray of sunshine. And I didn't agree with many of the things that he said, but that's not the point. Peter Hitchens is a guy with a following, an interesting man. And I began this interview by asking him, why did he boycott the Brexit referendum? Peter Hitchens, you've had an interesting journey. You were a socialist as a young man.
I was a Trotskyist.
A Trotskyist.
That's straight choice.
So you were the full 9 yards on the left.
Completely, yes, the whole way.
And so how does that...
Suicidal Bolshevik.
How does that journey go from where you were?
Well, it's enormous fun. It's tremendously educational. You know what you used to think. You can't pretend that you didn't think it, and in my case, I don't. There are many other people who were in the same political movements when I was there back in the late 60s and early 70s. Keep very quiet about it indeed. I don't, because I think it's essential people know. It's probably one of the best political educations you can get, particularly in realism and in how people actually operate.
And was it a rapid?
I'm sorry for some of the things that I said and did, and always will be, but I'm not sorry for the education I got out of it at all.
And was it a rapid, overnight sort of change of position on issues, or was it a gradual?
No, this is never overnight. What everybody does when they change their mind is they feel a strong pressure to change their mind. You know there's a door over there. You open it. There's something beyond it which you're going to have to face, but you hesitate because you know that, in fact, it will change your life. You'll lose, for a start, almost all your friends. And that puts people off changing their minds.
Yeah. And so you made that move. You finished up actually joining the Conservative Party for
yes, I did.
For a period of time. Now, I mean, I'm an ex-Tory.
Terrible mistake.
I'm an ex-Tory as well, although I was in it for a bit. But so where would you place yourself? I mean, you know, I read your stuff in the Mail on Sunday every week and other things that you do, and a lot of people do. Where would you place yourself on the political spectrum today, or isn't that even relevant?
No, it is relevant. I think I would call myself a British Gaullist. It's extraordinary that this combination of strong defence, patriotism, strong welfare state, and national independence isn't more common in politics, because I think it appeals to so many people and suits so many people. But for some reason, this country has not had it and doesn't show any signs of particularly wanting it. But that would be the simplest way of describing it. For those who can remember General de Gaulle.
And what he represented.
You can. But even those who can't, there's a fantastic biography of him by Gillian Jackson, which describes this extraordinary life. But it's a very sound position. Something like it exists in the PIS party in Poland. But the problem with them is that they seem to me not to have a particularly strong concern for the rule of law or human liberty. And that has, to me, to be on top of absolutely everything. Liberty under the law, any British politics has to be based upon that, because that's what keeps us what we are.
He's an ex-SAS soldier, a larger-than-life personality. He's worked in private security in some of the most dangerous places in the world. He really is quite a character. And I asked Big Phil Campion, how did it all start?
I was adopted as a kid into an abusive relationship whereby I suffered at the hands of a very violent father, adopted father. That subsequently broke down. My mother turned violent, so she went noisy. I then ended up in a series of situations where my behaviour plummeted. And I was a handful as a kid. I was an absolute, as they call them, do you know what I mean? But
well, I'm sure you're pretty difficult to handle now.
I've had my moments, Nigel. I've had my moments, you know that. But you know. Anyway, so I ended up in the care system for a series of mismatches of where I went, and you know, I was exposed to sexual abuse, which was used against me as sort of like a lever, a tool. I was told I was nothing. I was told this. I was told that. I was told the other. So I didn't have the greatest childhood, but I did learn a lot from my childhood, and that's very important, do you know what I mean? So you might be having a rough time, but you can learn a lot when you have a rough time. So, yeah, I took from it what I took from it and moved forward with it.
And school?
School, non-existent, left with a psycho proficiency, took that twice, got someone else to help me.
Well, that's something, I
mean. Yeah, so no, I didn't do very well at school at all. I did, however, I went to a public school for a while. They identified that I did have quite a high IQ, did one of those little bubble tests, got sent, state paid for to a public school, but it was state paid for. The other kids knew that, they're like that, oh, look at the old poor kid, they nicknamed me Kevin, took the mickey out of me and all that sort of stuff, do you know what I mean? Yeah, torrid year I had there. But, you know, I've been invited back there since, and I will go up there hopefully this year and see them, and, you know, I don't hold grudges like that.
And the army? So the army
was to make it of me.
Was that what you always wanted to do?
No, not really. I wanted to play football for England, but I was rubbish.
There's a lot of kids out there now want to play football for England.
I bet there is,
the last few
there is a substitute for England, I'm telling you. It wins things as well.
Would you fancy taking one of those penalties at Wembley the other night?
I'll take one, yeah, absolutely. I'd be queued up for one. I'd have that. Yeah, all day, yeah.
So the Royal Hampshire Regiment it was?
The Royal Hampshire Regiment I went, yeah, passed me training, best improved recruit. I found out later that means he was an idiot, but we got him over the line. Had a great time there.
And a wonderful regiment.
Wonderful regiment, great history.
Abolished by John Major.
Abolished by John Major, yeah. At the time, I'd have liked to have got hold of the fleshy part of his neck and give him a talking to, like, do you know what I mean? But it never happened. And, you know, this is one of the things that advocates me to talk about the British Army, because we dealt with that. Yeah. You know, it was a tough time, we dealt with it. And I think that's one of the key things that the British Army does. You can throw at them whatever you like, but they'll deal with it.
Yeah.
They might go slightly round the sun to get the moon sometimes, but they will deal with it, and they will do the best they can.
I mean, then you did some amazing things, because you did the Royal Marine.
I did my Wallums Commander course, I did P Company, and then ultimately I did selection for Special Forces.
In the Parachute Regiment.
Yeah, that's right. So P Company for the Parachute Regiment. So I had me red lid, I had me green lid.
Yeah. And
then I went away and did my Special Forces stuff. Passed first time, wasn't a retread. And, you know, did a bit of time there. I won't lie to you, got out under a bit of a cloud, but, you know, there you go.
But the SAS, I mean, it's still got this extraordinary mythology that kind of surrounds it. What sort of men succeed in the SAS?
It's a mishmash of all types of blokes, but good blokes ultimately. Good blokes, you know. You don't have to be the fastest in the pack. You don't have to be the racing snake. You don't have to be the strongest, the biggest, the hardest. But it's full of decent blokes. It really is.
But you've got to be fit.
You've got to be fit, yeah, but you don't have... This is a mistake a lot of young lads make who are going for it. They overtrain, they go nuts, they go mad, they're like, You're like, no, calm down a bit, and they'll thrash you, believe me, do you know what I mean? So, yeah.
But it isn't just physical fitness.
It's not just physical fitness, there's a lot of mental fitness.
Yeah.
And, mental resilience as well, actually wanting to be there. That's a very important thing that people miss about the regiment. It's a volunteer organisation. Nobody tells me, if you hear it in the pub sometimes, yeah, so-and-so was told he's going to go to the SAS because he's that good. No, that doesn't happen. That's a myth. So we'll bust that on your show first here, all right? Okay, that never happens. You volunteer. You're a volunteer to go to the regiment, and that's the way it is. They have a good look at you, and if you pass their selection, you're in. You go on probation for a bit, and then you move on through the ranks and up and do what you got to do.
And do you think the SAS is as good as the reputation that it has?
I think it's better than the reputation it has. I think it's undoubtedly, the best special forces in the world, as far as I'm concerned, and you'll never get any other side of the coin off me. I'm telling you. All right?
Well, the Americans might not agree.
No, they can disagree. They can do what they like. But at the end of the day, their special forces are modelled on ours, not ours on theirs.
Yeah.
Okay. We're the world leaders in that sort of thing, and we have been for a very long time.
So, in a sense, joining the army clearly changed your life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Led you on to business and Somali pirates.
Yeah, I got out of the regiment. I'd bought my way out of the regiment. I'd come back from Sierra Leone. We'd done a few bits and pieces. My behaviour dipped. I had a couple of issues. We'll park it there for now. Another day. Yeah. But I got out. I bought my way out, and it was in September of 2001. Mm-hmm. And obviously the planes went cruising in, and I thought, there's some money to be made here. So I sort of disappeared off to Pakistan, done me bits and pieces, ended up working in Afghanistan. I think I got to the embassy before they did, to be honest. It was, and then it just became an absolute mad rush of this private military contracting that you've seen all about Afghanistan, Iraq.
And it's big money.
In the day, it was big money. The lads are going out there for peanuts now, and it really breaks me because they're taking some real risks. They're getting out of sturdy careers in the British military, and they're dumping themselves over there. Do you know what I mean? And when you look at Afghanistan now, and there's this big pull-out, the Taliban are advancing, and there's guys out there still working for £125 a day.
Wow,
that's insane.
Yeah,
I could get that on Brown's nightclub.
So you were making some decent dough.
I've done a little bit of dough. Yeah, we've done all right.
No, it looks like you did. It looks like you did.
Yeah, we done okay. I wasn't sensible with it, Nigel.
No, well, I wouldn't expect you to be. So was that like almost being a mercenary, or how would you describe what you were doing?
I prefer to call it contracting. A mercenary, takes up arms and actively involves in things like coups and stuff like that. We weren't. We were always working on jobs that were aiding the infrastructure of the place or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I worked for the European Commission for quite a long period of time. I worked for the United Nations.
Gosh, they'd never have employed me, would they? She was 1/3 of the band Atomic Kitten. She then became Queen of the Jungle by winning I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And the fame led to some very, very tough and very, very down times. But now she's turning her life around in a remarkable way. It's an inspiring story. It's Kerry Katona.
I was in a nightclub and got approached. For me, it was unbelievable. It was everything I ever wanted to become famous. And for me, when I say becoming famous, I wanted to be loved. That's what I wanted more than anything. I think everybody wants to be loved, but I was so desperate to be loved. So when I became a celebrity and I'm on the stage, it was great. I loved it. I still do now. I still love performing in the shower.
So getting into this group, it just happened.
It just happened overnight. Yeah. So I was in a nightclub, right place at right time. This guy said to me, I know this guy called Andy McCluskey from More Cash on My News in the Dark. I went along, took my page 3 photographs, told a few jokes, sang a few songs, and they based a band around my personality, and I was a founder member.
Now, page 3, you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
Page
was
3.
you a fan, Nigel?
Oh, big time. But we're not supposed to say that anymore.
But I don't see why not.
I mean, page 3, it's all stopped. It's all been banned. It's all seemed to be awful. It's all seemed to be demeaning to women. How do you respond to that?
Well, I do OnlyFans, Nigel, which is an over 18 site as well, and that's how I've become a millionaire again. For me, at school, I'm not going to lie, I had a great chest on me. I wasn't going to be a rocket scientist. Can't believe I'm having this conversation with Nigel Farage on national television, but I had a great rack on me, and I wasn't going to become a rocket scientist. But I knew in my head to get out of this council estate and become what I wanted to. That was my get out. I was a pretty girl.
Was doing Page 3, was it demeaning?
No,
Was
not
it
at all.
Was it exploitative?
No, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I felt empowered. This is my body, Nigel. I'll do with it what I want. And for me, I didn't have the brains to be a politician or a doctor, but I had the body and I had the brains to know to use that body to a certain extent to get what I wanted. And that was the money and the success and the foundation for my children have private education. All of my kids have had private education. I live in a beautiful £2 million house. I've done that. I've created it. And because I've created this little empire, for me now, I've been able to invest in myself with my dating app and my clothing brand and my fitness brand.
But before you got to where you are now, so you had this amazing app and, Atomic Kitten was a mega success and people love it. You make quite a bit of money out of it. You get married, of course, to another big pop star.
Yeah, Brian McFadden.
So, kind of, you've gone from where you were to just this most incredible...
So I got a blessing from the Pope when I married Brian. Load of good that did like. But honest to God, I've gone from this kid in foster home to, inviting Mariah Carey to my wedding, to getting a blessing from John Paul the Pope himself.
That's amazing.
And I think that goes to show you can achieve and do anything that you want to, that you set your mind to.
If you believe in yourself.
100%. I'm a massive believer in law of attraction, manifestation, affirmations, gratitudes. I'm a massive believer in all that. I've been on every side of the coin you can think of, but I've brought it all back.
Because then you went into the jungle.
I did go in the jungle.
And you became the queen of the jungle.
I did. You know what? That for me was, I think, still today, the highlight of my career.
Was it?
To have that amount of love, I keep going back to love again, and being put on that pedestal, which the press do, Nigel, which it does.
They put you up, we'll come to that in a moment.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
So, wasn't it humiliating doing bush trucker trials and all this kind of stuff?
Oh, God, no. It was great. For me, I get offered to do these reality shows, and for me, Nigel, I think, wow, what a great opportunity. I would never normally go and do something like that as a normal person. You wouldn't, unless it's offered to you. I've got amazing memories. I've done great adventures. I've done things that I never thought I'd do in a lifetime, and I'm being paid to do it at the same time.
So it was all going. We get into sort of 2004, 5, 6, and kind of life can't get much better. Mm-hmm. But then it all goes wrong, Kerry.
Yeah, it does. It all went wrong, didn't it?
Was it too much success too quickly?
No, I think when my first husband left me, for me, that was straight back down to earth. So before I met Brian, I was in Atomic Kitten. I lived like in a council estate. I was doing drugs with my mother. Mm-hmm. And Brian was like this knight in shining armour, took me away, moved me to Ireland, sorted my life out. He left me straight back to where I love my mum to bits, by the way. She's sound now. But straight back to where I started. So rather than grieving my marriage failure, not only did I feel a failure as a wife, I felt a failure as a mother as well. And my go-to was cocaine, unfortunately, and that became my best friend. Nigel.
And then the press who
they had a field day.
And you were...
When the News Up World was around, they had a field day with me,
they did. You were plastered, weren't you? All over the Murdoch
everywhere,
newspapers.
Yeah.
And it was relentless.
Yeah, it made me feel suicidal. It really was.
Did it?
Was, yeah, there was like 40 paps outside my house every single day. I know that Saturday phone call when you got,
I've been through it, yeah.
And you be scared, and my phone even to this day is always on silent. I hate phone calls. I always think it's going to be bad news. If my manager rings, I think, oh my God, what is it? I get really scared. It was to a point, it was suicidal. That, I couldn't trust everybody. Everyone was telling stories. And then obviously there was, the hacking thing. And it was like, I didn't know who to trust. And cocaine became my confidant. It gave me confidence when I needed it. It was there when nobody else was. And it just turned out to be a liar, really, like most men, Nigel. I nearly died doing that, but I had to turn it all around.
And what do we do with young people? Is the messaging right in schools or...?
No, it isn't. And another thing that's not even good in schools as well, which really gets to me, like the bankruptcy and the drugs, it's not spoke about. You go to school, Nigel, and you learn about the Battle of Hastings, right? What's that going to do for somebody when they leave school? No one teaches you about a mortgage. I want you to tell me why it's not in the education. No one teaches you about mortgage, don't teach you about bankruptcy, unless you do a business course.
Yep.
And not everybody does that. And it's only briefly spoke about then. They don't teach about your VAT or your tax or life insurance or a will or a mortgage. No.
So you're not being prepared for life.
You're not, and they're the most important things. You have to, the whole dream is, getting married, having kids, getting a mortgage, getting your life. No one teaches you any of that.
I love it. You're right.
Like your credit card, no one teaches you about anything.
Just getting people to pass exams is not education.
Well, I don't think so. It's about life skills.
I'm with you.
No one teaches, and even today, like, when my children leave school, they're not going to have a close to get a mortgage. No one teaches that kind of stuff. Or about drugs and mental health. It's not taught enough. 1 in 4 people suffer. I've got bipolar. 1 in 4 people suffer with a mental health. No one teaches it in school properly. I think it's wrong. Come on, Nigel, you can sort this out.
You ever thought about politics?
Me for MP.
But you're really passionate there about the way we should be bringing teenagers
100%. I think we go on about life, and the reason why so many people make these mistakes with drugs is due, a lot of it, to mental health, and it's not spoken about enough in the schools at all. Addiction, bipolar, things like domestic abuse. This is real life stuff that you're taught that happens to people when they grow up, and none of that is taught, and I think it's wrong.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan